Hilchis Shecheinim Perek Shishi. Now we learned about the people living in a chotzer, so they're obligated to be mishtatif in those needs that are the normal needs of a chotzer. And al derech zeh, the bnei amovi are obligated to be mishtatif in those normal needs of a movi. And al derech zeh, there's people that are living in a city, there are normal needs of a city. That's what we're learning. So the people in the city are obligated to be mishtatif in those normal needs of the city. Perek Shishi, Keifen b'nei ha'ir zeh lasis choyma l'sayim obriach le'ir. A city needs a wall, it needs a door to get into the city, doors to get into the city, and al derech zeh, it also needs a bolt to be able to lock those doors from the inside. So Keifen b'nei ha'ir zeh lasis choyma l'sayim obriach le'ir. And also, v'livnis lam beis hakneses, a city needs a shul, a place to daven, and also v'liknei sefer Torah u'neviim u'ksuvim, that a people should be able to learn in the Torah, and to read in the Torah, Kriyas HaTorah, and all that is to learn neviim u'ksuvim, k'dei sheyikra behem kol mi sheyirtzu likris min ha-sibur, that anyone of the sibur should want to learn, should be able to have Torah, neviim u'ksuvim to read from. And it's brought down in the Paskim that Bizman Hazeh, that people already read from printed Svarim, so Memela is the obligation of the Tzibur to buy printed Svarim for the Tzibur in order for the people to have what to learn from. Halacha Beis, Mi Shalokach Ir Be'Eretz Yisrael, a person bought a city in Eretz Yisrael, so he owns that city, so there was a special Takana D'Rabbanan that Mitzad Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, he should also provide that this city should have access on all four sides to get to the rest of Eretz Yisrael. And also the other people from other parts in Eretz Yisrael should be able to get to the city. So that he should also have, like he should buy himself an area which should be a road which should lead into the rest of Eretz Yisrael. Mishal lokach ir be'Eretz Yisrael, kefen esi bezin. Bezin forces him likach liderech me'ar beruch. He said that all four sides there should be a road that should be able to have access to the city, and you should be able to go from the city to other parts in Eretz Yisrael. And that's Mishum Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Sakona D'Rabbanan, the Gemara says in Baba Kama. And the koifen, that's din number one. Nachadin, the koifen b'nei bika zeh, last is b'neim chritzu ben charitz. Now a bika is an area which has a lot of fields, and it's owned by a number of people. So the Rambam is saying that the b'nei abika could force each other to have this chritz. Now we learned about it already in Hilchas Mechira that there's a concern that a namya will be able to jump into the field and be able to hurt the field. So therefore, in order to prevent that from happening, there would be a charitz and a ben charitz. A charitz is like a ditch, which is the length of the field, which is 6 tvachim wide. 6 tvachim wide, that's a charitz. And a ben charitz is a smaller ditch, which would be 3 tvachim wide. And in between the charitz and the ben charitz, there would be a tefach. So altogether, it would be 6 tvachim, a tefach, and another 3 tvachim, which would be 10 tvachim. The Pashas Haloshen over here sounds like it's between each field. That's v'keif and b'nei bika zeh, where there's a number of fields there. So the b'nei bika force each other, last is b'nei, between one field and the other field, they should make a charitz and a ben charitz in order to prevent this namir from being able to jump from one field to another field. In other words, if he's in one field, he shouldn't be able to get into the other field. The Maggid Mishnah says over here that we're talking about around the entire bika, making the charitz around on the charitz and the ben charitz around the entire bika. The Rambam is taining that first of all the lashon over here is beineim. So beineim sounds like between one field and the other field, and also in Hilchas Mechira it's mefurish that we're talking about making a charitz and a ben charitz in between one field and the other field. So it's clear. So he's asking on the Maggid Mishnah that l'chura the pashtus hamashmois of the Rambam means making a charitz and a ben charitz between the two fields. Halacha Gimel. Mi sheyeshli chotzer b'eir acheres. So until now we're talking about people live in a city. People live in a city, and they and so the question is, what are they mechuyev to be mishtatev in? So they're mechuyev in building the wall, the building the doors going into the city, the bolts that are going into the city, the svarim that are going into the city. These are the things that a regular person that lives in the city is mechuyev. Now, Mishi Yeshli Chotzer Be'er Acheres, he has a chotzer in another city. He doesn't actually live in that city, but he has a chotzer in that city. So the din is B'nei Ho'ir, Mishabden Oisei, Lach B'ri Moim Boiris, Sichon U'Ma'oris, V'amas Hamayim. So he has to be mishtatif in the water supply of the city. The water supply of the city is part of his obligation. Avol b'shar kol advarim, it sounds like anything, even the protection of the city. Avol b'shar kol advarim, ein meshabnei, so he has no chiyuv. However, if he's living in that city, so then so also those things that were mentioned earlier, which is the wall and the Beis HaKnesses and Sefer Torah. Masha'enken, if he doesn't live in the city, and he just has a chotzer in that city, so he is obligated to participate in the water supply. That's the Beiras, Shichna, Ma'oris, and the Amas HaMayim, which is the water supply of drinking, and Alderaz the Amas HaMayim, which is also to irrigate the fields. So all these things, that's part of his obligation. But on the other hand, other obligations he doesn't have. So that's his din. A person who lives in the city has has all the obligations. Masha'enken, a person that doesn't live in the city but he owns a chotzer in the city has only the obligation of the water supply. Halacha dalet. When they collect the money in order to build the wall, so not everyone has to give equally. Whereas you need a wall to a city in order to protect that people shouldn't come from outside the city and steal from the people in the city. Now the people that are closer to the outside of the city, they're closer to the place where you're going to build the wall, so they're more exposed. So they're in more need of this wall than the people that are living more inside the city. So therefore, they have to pay more. They have to be mishtatev more for the wall. According to how close the houses are to the chema, then they have to pay more. The one that's closer to the wall has to pay more money. Halacha hey, v'chol hador be'ir shnei maser chedesh, eshekana bebezdiri. Either you're living there already for 12 months. In other words, even if you don't own a house in the city, you're renting. But if you're living there already 12 months, or you bought a house to live in, so maybe you become a resident, even if you're not actually living there for a long time. Is noisen im bnei ho'ir b'chol advarim hatzrichim l'tiknachem v'adloses uschar haparoshin Hashem resabdina. So you have to participate in watching and making sure that the protection of the city. In other words, you live in the city for 12 months, and if you live in the city for 12 months, or you bought a house in the city, so you have to participate in building the wall and the doors to the wall, and also schar haparoshim Hashem esamedina. In other words, this the watchmen that are standing outside the city and watching the city, that's also part of your chiyuvim because you live in the city. So it's not so clear. In other words, if a person lives in the city for 12 months, so he's becoming part of the city as far as taking care of watching the city. The pashtus, what about the other chiyuvim that there are in the city? We mentioned other chiyuvim. There was Beis HaKnesses and the Sefer Torah, things, the other chiyuvim that you have in the city. And then there's also chiyuvim which are connected to be mishtatif in the water. So we said someone mishiesh lechotze beiracher. So obviously the people of the city also have to be mishtatif in the water. So the question is, at what point in time does that happen? So there's certain tzedakahs that we learned before, Benegeh, the kupas oir and the tamchoy, knows that you don't have to wait till you become there for 12 months. Even if you're there earlier, so if you're there only a month, you already start being mishtatif in certain tzedakahs of the city. So it's not clear over here. There's nachama. We had a regular din that there's chiyuvim that the bnei ir have. A regular person of the bnei ir has one chiyuv. Then we learned the din of someone that has a chotzer in the city, and that's his chiyuvim is only the water supply, it seems to be. And then now we're learning that if someone lives in a city for 12 months, or a person owns a house in the city, so then he becomes responsible for the protection of the city. What about the other responsibilities of the city? The Rambam doesn't say it. The pashtus advarim is that he has to give also for all the other responsibilities, in other words, to be mishtatev in building a Beis HaKnesses and things of that nature, which that's what the Rambam brings from Achreinim, that he, in other words, even Benegeh, the protection of the city, he doesn't have to do it until he's there for either 12 months or that he owns a house. But Fashteitzach, that once he's mechuyev to provide for the protection of the city, so he also has to provide for the other things like building a Beis HaKnesses and things of that nature. Halacha Vav, Kol HaDvarim shetzrichim l'shmira seir, those things that are involved in the protection of the city, is loichen mikol anshir. Everybody in the city has to be mishtatev. Va'afilu min haYisemim, even the Yisemim have to be mishtatev. Chutz, though you don't take tzedakah from Yisemim normally, but Lepel, this is something which they need, the protection of the city, and therefore you take it from them as well. Chutz mit Talmid Chacham, except from Talmid Chacham, because Talmid Chacham tzrichim shmira, they don't need this protection. Sha'atera shimrasim, because the Torah watches them, and therefore they don't need this protection of the chema and the dlases and the briach. All these things they don't need. Aval etikan hadrachim v'recheves, in order to fix the roads and the various areas, the recheves, afilim and achacham, everyone has to be mishtatev, the chacham as well. So that's if you pay people in order to go ahead and do these tikkun hadrachim v'recheves, so the Talmid Chacham also have to be mishtatev in whatever the hitzois and whatever the costs are in providing for this type of a service. But if the seder is that the people themselves go out and they start fixing the roads, the people go out and fix the roads. Then the Talmid Chacham are not obligated to go out and be mishtatev with everyone else in fixing the roads. They don't belittle themselves in front of the Amaris. And the Amaris, everyone's going out to fix the road, so it wouldn't be bakavedik that the Talmid Chacham should go out and also be mishtatev and actually fixing the roads together with everyone else. Now, hoyu choyfer nor lahavi b'mayim l'mdina, they were digging out a river. There was another for the river to be able to come towards their city, in order to have water for the city, is given after Yisem. So that you also take from the Yisem. Shezus chuslem, it's something which is necessary for them. Kadesh yashkemem, so they say in v'karmeim, in order for their fields and their vineyards to have water. Lefichachem ira dover shelibo lehamamayim. If Lepel something happened, the Lepel at the end they collected the money and water didn't come, is hail v'leinenu menachem Yisemim, is machzirim kol mashenilkachem. So everyone else that paid for it, so whatever, it didn't work out, but it cost money, so therefore that's what it cost in order to build. And Lepel, they weren't matzliach. But the Yisemim, the only reason you could take the money for them is because they're going to be nana. And Lepel, if they didn't end up being nana, so therefore you have to return the money to the Yisemim. There's a special din that the Yisemim, when you took the money from the Yisemim in order to provide water, to bring a river towards the city, and Lepel, it didn't work out, so you have to return the money to the Yisemim. Hail v'leinenu ema Yisemim is machzirim lem kol ma shenilkach bem v'chein kol ki yetze b'zeh. Halacha ches koifen b'nei movi zeh zeh shalei leheshe b'nei lichayet v'lei bursi v'lei echad bali umnis. We learned before that the movi, we're talking about a movi she'eini mufulish. So it's not that there's traffic going through and through this movi. It's the traffic in those. It's a closed off movi, so there's only an entrance for one side. So the bnei movi have like a right to that road which leads up, which is the movi, which leads up to Chatzeres, to insist that they don't want to have extra traffic in this movi. Now, if let's say there's someone that's a tailor that wants to buy a house, or he wants to enter into one of the Chatzeres, so the din is that any person in that mavi could insist that I don't want this tailor to become part of this mavi, because the tailor is going to bring business. People are going to come to the tailor to fix their clothes, and memela, so it's going to bring extra traffic, and they don't want that extra traffic. That's this ershto din. Kefim b'nei mavi zeh zeh shalei leheshe b'nei lichayet v'lei bursi, not a tailor, not a tanner, v'lei echad bali umnis, because he's bringing extra traffic. Now, however, Hoyesham b'Mavi, Echad Mibnei Mavi, which was an Uman, and V'lei Michuba, there was already a tailor there. And they weren't Mecha, so Memela, he's there, he's allowed to be there. There was a bathhouse, or there was a Chanus, a Richaim, or a mill. Now, someone else wants to make another bathhouse. A Tochan Acheres, he wants to make another mill. Now, there could be two issues over here. One issue when the person wants to make another mill is mitzad the Bnei Amovi. The Bnei Amovi don't want traffic. That's why they can stop someone from bringing a mill. But the din is no. But over here, since there's already a tailor, let's say, and now there's another tailor wants to go, so the Bnei Amovi don't really have a taina. They don't want a tailor here, because Lepel, since there is a tailor here, the fact that there'll be a second tailor is not necessarily going to bring so much extra traffic. So therefore, the Bnei Amavi don't have a taina. And then there's another issue. The original tailor, could he have a taina? Say, listen, I don't want another tailor here, because Lepel, this other tailor is going to take away my business. So on both accounts, there's no taina. That's this din over here of the Rambam. So if there was already the merches, or there was a chanus or richaim, and then someone else wants to make another bathhouse, he wants to make another mill, So the you're taking away my business. Because a person has a right to be able to open a store, even though that person has the store as well, and everyone should be able to choose which one they want to go to. And this person was never really part of this mavi. So l'chura, there's another issue that the Bnei Amavi say, we don't want you here because you're bringing extra traffic. So you say no. They can't prevent him from being here from the same reason that if there was never a tailor there, they would be able to prevent a tailor. Because since there is a Isa Umnis already there, so on both counts, the tailor can't prevent this new tailor that wants to be a tailor, and the Bnei Amavi don't have a right to prevent this tailor from moving in. Aval ger memdina acheres, someone that's coming from a different medina, shebo lasis chanus mitzad chanusei sholzeh, a merchetz mitzad merchetz sholzeh, is yesh lehen lemoni. So over here there could be a mania, because they could prevent him from coming because Lepel is taking away the business from this person, and since he's taking away the business from this other person, so then they could be mania. Now, as a person that's living in this medina, even though he's living in a different mavui, so he has a right to move into this mavui and go ahead and open the same type of business that there's someone in that mavui. Masha'enkin, someone from a different country that's moving into this mavui, so then they could prevent him and say, no, you're taking away the business from that other person that's in this business. However, if he was a person that was paying taxes together with everyone else, even though Hitaka didn't live here, but Lepeli was paying taxes together with everyone else, and now he wants to move into this Mavi, so then they can't prevent him from moving into the Mavi because he's taking away someone's business, because Lepel, since he has the same right, just like someone that lives in that country, and he wants to move into this Mavi, so he can't be prevented. So Aldera is that this person that does live in the country, but on the other end, he's paying the taxes, so he could go into and go into this mavi and open this a business similar to a business that someone else in that mavi already has. Halacha tes reichlin hamachzirin bayoris is ein bnei amedina yichilin lakfan. Those peddlers that go around in the various different cities and they sell items to people, and amongst the items is also perfume that they sell to women. Is ein bnei amedina yichilin lakfan. There would be a svara that weistois that there are people in the cities that sell the same items. So Mamela, they're coming around and selling, they're peddlers and they're selling these items and they're taking away business from other people that live in that city. Is ein bnei amedina yichilin lakfan. Takonis ezrahi. Sheyu machzirin. There was a takonis ezra to let these peddlers going around be mechazer. Because it should be that women should be able to have psamim, and memel it'll be good for women should be able to be miskashid l'baleim. I will ain't cave and make makom v'yeshim bei. For a person to come from outside the city and sit down inside this city and open a chanus into the city without the permission of the bnei oir, they don't have a right. There's a person doesn't have a right to come into a city where there are people that are need parnasa in the city, and they sell items in the city. So you're coming along from outside the city and you're opening yourself a chanus in the city. Basically, they don't have that right. I will aim kavim mokim v'yeshim bei ella bidaz bnei. They need permission from the people of the city in order to be able to sit and be kaveh themselves a chanus and sell things in the city. Now, v'im talmud chachmu, if the person that's this peddler is a talmud chacham, is then kivei makom b'chol makom sheyirtze, because he shouldn't be misbatim lelimudei. So they let him that wherever he wants, he could sit down, and even though it's not a place where he lives, it's not his city, nevertheless he's opening a chanus in that city. So no, we're talking about a city over here, obviously not the cities like we're used to our big cities. We're talking about a city that there is a certain amount of people over there in that city. It's a kleinish city. And the people in the city sell things to each other, and that's how they're misparnas. Now you're having another person walking into the city, and he's just opening a chanus. He doesn't live in the city; he's opening a chanus in the city. So now, so the din is that the bnei oyer can be makiv. So the fact that he's going around selling things that they're not makiv, that was takonas ezra, that there should be the rechlin which mechazron bayoris. And if a person wants to be kaveh makom in the city, so if he's not a talmud chacham, so the bnei oyer can be makiv. And if he's a talmud chacham, so then the bnei oir cannot be makif. Halacha yud haseichrim Also, again, the same idea. You have people in the city that they're selling certain items, and now you have another seicher coming out into the city, and he wants to sell the same item. So then they could prevent him, saying, "Lo, listen, there are people in the city that are selling this type of an item, and therefore you can't just come into the city and start selling this item." However, there was a special market day. People came into the city into a market. There was like a market. So then, so people could come into the market and sell things in the market. But to open up a booth in the city and to start selling things in the city, if you're not part of the city, you have no right. Now, and also in the market, they could only sell it in the market. They shouldn't go around houses and start selling their item, trying to sell their items that they brought in. So normally the din is a person can't just walk into a city and start selling, opening up like a booth and start selling it. If there's a marketplace in that city, a market day, a special day, that there's a market, so people come to the market and could sell. But they can't go around from house to sell them. There's a special din that the Reichler and Bechazron Bayaris, so they're selling like little items. Amongst the items is also psamim, which is leserich noshim, which is seirah that the Yiddish women should have psamim. So that's why it was a takonis ezra that they should be Mechazron Bayaris. Mashenk and other things, normally the din is you can't go ahead and start selling it, and only b'yei shuk you could sell it in the shuk. Now v'im yeshla milva beir, if let's say someone owes money to people in the city, and therefore he wants to sell these items in the city in order to be able to pay back his alva. So moichin kedei parnasosim. So then they could sell kedei parnasosim afilu b'lei mashuk achi yifru chayvam v'yelchalam until they'll be able to pay up their debt. So you have people that owe money in the city. So now they're coming and they're selling items in the city in order to pay up a debt to the people in the city. So it's kilo like just like the people in the city could go ahead and sell items in the city, because it's l'tevosim and they're part of the city. So these people that are selling items in the city in order to pay a debt to people in the city, it's like kilo, like the people in the city are setting up this system. And Memela, they are able to do it. Now the Maisa is, the Maggid Mishnah says that this din is only if they're selling for the same price that everyone else is selling. So Memela, why should they be selling and other people not selling? But if they have schera which is better than the schera that's being sold in the city, or they're selling for prices which are below the prices that the people are selling in the city, so then this din doesn't apply. This din only applies if it's the same. In other words, the people could buy from the people in the city, and they could buy from them, and by you going ahead and selling it, you're being mineh from the people in the city. Mashengen, if you're providing something which the people in the city wouldn't have otherwise, so if I cared, we're not so we're more worried that the people in the city should have better items or they should have cheaper items, then we're worried that the people in the city should be able to sell their items. Halacha Yudalef. Echad mibnei movi she'enei mefulish shebikesh lehiyosis reifa. You have a person in a movi that wants to become a doctor, or an uman is someone that lets blood. There used to be bloodletting, hakazas dam. A gardi, or he wants to become a weaver. A melamed tineka shel goyim. So again, it's no. Before we were talking about a person wants to move into the mavui, and he's one of these people. But over here we have another situation. You have a person living already in the city, and now he wants to change his profession. He wants to become a doctor. He wants to become an uman or a gardi, a malam tineka shel goyim, and start becoming a school teacher, not of Torah to Yiddish children. He wants to become a school teacher to goyim. So the din is bnei mavi makmalov. So the bnei mavi could prevent him from becoming that profession in that mavi, because there's going to be more people coming in and out. Someone that has a house in a chatzar hashutfim is leyaskireni. He shouldn't rent it out to these type of people, which are going to bring extra people into the chatzar. He shouldn't rent it out. He shouldn't rent it out not to a doctor, not to a uman. A uman is someone who's a bloodletter, and a gardi is a weaver. And v'leila sefer Yehudi, or a Jewish scribe, shekesav ashtaris, or v'leila mlamdei tineka shel goyim. All these people, which are going to cause other people to come there, so there's going to be a higher amount of traffic in the chutzner, so you shouldn't do it. Halacha Yud Beis. Chanus shebechutzner. Chanus is again like a booth. It's not a house. It's like a booth that was used to sell things, like a store, a little store. Chanus shebechotzer is yichelin hashchenim limchis biyadi v'leimalei einanu lishay yichelin lishay mikela nechnasim. You have a person that lives in this chotzer, and he opened a chanus in the chotzer. In this chotzer, he opened a little booth where he sells things or he does things. So they contained him. The Shecheinim contained the fact that people are coming in and out is something which is preventing us from being able to sleep. He could do his work in the chanus. In other words, he could have a little booth in order to do his work, whatever work he's doing there. But he shouldn't be selling from the chanus in the chotzer, which would mean that people would be coming into the chotzer to buy things. He should be selling it in the shuk, and he'll make the things in the chanus. Let's say he's a smith or he does work which involves certain noise, and they're going to tie at him, the noise that you're making in this chanus is stopping us from sleeping. That's not a taina. Since he has this chanus, so Mimela he's allowed to do it. That's all. No, if he didn't have the chanus and he wants to make this chanus, so they could stop that as well. Masha'en Kain, if he has the chanus and he was making this noise, and all of a sudden they'll come along and they'll say, "Listen, this noise is disturbing us," that they could be meicher. But for people to come into the chotzer and buy things, that they could be meicher a whole time, even if people were buying already. But they could come along and say, "Listen, there's too much traffic here, and therefore we want to stop the people coming from buying things here in the chanus. We're not going to stop you from continue working in the chanus, but they could stop from the people continuing coming to buy in the chanus." That's din. So that's din number one. So notice again, if he didn't yet have a chanus and he wants to make a chanus, they can stop that as well. That says too much noise. Masha'inkin, if he already had a chanus, even people were coming, so they could stop the people from coming and say, "Listen, there's too many people coming, there's too much traffic, it's disturbing us." But they can't stop him from continuing working. A person that wants to become a malamet tinekes, and Mamela children are going to start coming to his house, and parents are going to be bringing the children, there's going to be traffic because of this, like a little cheder in his house. So he could open a cheder in his house, since we're talking about learning with tinekes v'isram teira, so that's Hashem Chavis l'matzitke yagdel teira v'yadeh. The Gemara brings the pasuk, and therefore they can't prevent this person from becoming a malamet tinekes, even though l'chura it's the same problem. There's more traffic, but lepel, the traffic that's coming because he's becoming a malamet is not something which they could prevent. Halacha Yud Gimel. Mi sheyesh li ber lifnim mi beisu shel chaveri. We learned in Hilchas Mechira that if you sell someone a house, so the pashtus advarim is you sold them the house, but the bear is still yours. The bear is still yours, and you have to get right of way to be able to get into the bear sometimes, or sometimes you don't have to go buy the right of way. But I'll call upon him, there's a musig of you owning a bear in someone else's house. Mi sheyesh li ber lifnim mi beisu shel chaveri. So nichnas b'shoshet derech b'nei adam nichnasim. You go in, you can't go in the middle of the night and say, "I need the bear." You have to go in times when normal people go into people's houses. And v'yetzi b'derech b'shoshet derech b'nei adam yetzi. And you go out of that house in the time when normal people go out of the house. In other words, you have to take into account it's taka your bear, and you have access to that bear. You have a right to go to the bear, but you have to go in a normal time. You can't bring your behemoth into that person's house and be mashkim from that bear. You fill up the bear in the inside of mashkim b'chutz, and you give your behemoth to drink from the outside. They both make a lock on this bear. Now, the bala bear makes a lock on the bear. He doesn't want that the balabai should use the water of the bear, so he locks the bear. So therefore, he has to have a lock. Now, ubala chotzer, why should the bala chotzer have a lock on the bear? It's not his bear. As long as the bala bear has the lock. So the answer is no. Ubala chotzer mishum chshad ishtei. In other words, the bala chotzer doesn't want that the person that owns the bear should be able to walk into this house when he's not there. Because Lepel, his wife is there. So Mamela, he's worried that he doesn't want this person to be there alone when his wife is there. So Mamela, he wants that he should have a lock on this bear. So therefore, this person that owns the bear, when he wants to take the water, could only take the water when the balabais is there. So Mamela is not going to be a hechatimtza where the bal haber is going to be able to come in and have an excuse for being there when the bal hachotzer is not there, because he can't get the water anyways. There's another lock there. So therefore, a bal chotzer wants to have a lock. He doesn't want that the bal haber should be able to walk into this house unless he's there. Halacha Yudalid. Mishi yeshli gina lifnim miginasi shel chaveri. In other words, he has a garden, but in order to get to his garden, he has to walk through someone else's garden. So he has the inner garden, and he has to walk through that other person's garden to get to that garden, and he has a right to. Is again, so nichnas b'shosh derech b'nei adam nichnasim. He could only walk in when it's regular for people to walk in, and v'yetzim b'derech b'nei adam yetzim, and he walks out when it's regular for people to walk out. In other words, even though he has right to go to his gina, but on the other hand, he has to take into account that he can't do it in not regular times. He has to do it in normal times. That's the number one. And also, he could go in. He can't bring people that he's going to sell, let's say, the vegetables in his gina. He's not going to bring people to buy the vegetables. So it'll be more than one person walking through this outside gina to get to the inside gina. He doesn't have a right. So he could go in himself to the gina, take out the vegetables, and sell it to whoever he wants to sell it. And also, so in other words, he can't go, because he has access to go through the outside gina to get to the inside gina. Now, Lepel, when he's in the inside gina, he could also get to another field, which it goes beyond that inside gina. So he can't go through the outside gina to get into the inside gina in order to be able to go to the outside field. If he wants to go to the outside field, he should go around and get to the outside field. He could only go into the outside gina to get into the inside gina. Now, once he's in the inside gina, he needs to tackle something in the inside gina, he could go to the outside field, and he doesn't have to go back through the outside gina. But on the other hand, he can't walk into the inside gina with the purpose not of using the gina, but just as a throughway to be able to get through to the chotzer. That's the so now v'hachitzin. The person that's on the outside gina, even though you have a pathway you have to get there, is a reis haderech. You could, that person, it's his gina. So Memela, he's allowed to plant the area which is the pathway. He doesn't have to leave an open area in his gina in order for this person to be able to walk through. Obviously, I mean, if the person's going to walk through, so some of the stuff that he's planting may get ruined. But Lepel, he doesn't have to leave an empty space. Now, the original way to go through was he went through the middle of the outside gina to get to his gina. Now, the person, they both agreed that rather than going in the middle and having like going in the middle of the gina, he would go on the side of the gina. So he would be using still the property of the baal of the outside gina, but it would be on the side. They both agreed that the derech is going to be minatzad. So now, since it's minatzad, so he's not really disturbing that person at all. It's completely on the side. He's not going through his gina. He's going on the side of the gina. So therefore, he's a nichnas v'yetze b'shoshu ureitze. He could go in and out whenever he wants because he's not disturbing anyone. And also, machnas l'techet tagram, he could bring people, notice people to go and buy this stuff. But still, that hagbola, that he shouldn't be going through al-manas to go to a soda acheres, that we have. In other words, he's allowed to go through whenever he wants. He's allowed to even bring tangrim. But on the other hand, to walk through in order to get to the soda acheres, that he shouldn't do. And now over here, since it's already manatzad, so say the balagina and the balagina chitzenis and the balagina pnimis could prevent anyone from planting that area. So that area, when it was in the middle of the gina, so the person of the outside gina, he had the right to plant over there. Mashenkin, once it's on the side, so then he loses that right, and neither of them have the right to plant in this gina.